And now, Crime Time with Candice DeLong.
This is Candice DeLong. You're listening to Crime Time, and our guest tonight is Mari Fagel. Mari is a political analyst and a regular contributor to the Huffington Post. And Mari, you wrote a fascinating article on a subject we've been discussing quite a bit on Crime Time, the Jodi Arias trial in Arizona, which is getting pretty heated.
Yes, cross-examination today is particularly heated. This whole week, Juan Martinez, I think, has been doing a wonderful job in poking the holes in her story.
Well, it sounds like me, you are kind of the opinion that she is lying. She's saying she killed Travis in self-defense because he was an abusive pedophile, and we've got him being shot in the face, 27 stab wounds, and throat slitting ear to ear.
And that, how could you claim self-defense when you essentially killed him 3 different ways? Like you said, she shot him, she stabbed him, and she sliced his throat. If you were really fearful of your life, shooting him or stabbing him or slicing his throat, one of those 3 things would have accomplished the end of saving her life.
Mm-hmm. Her trial has become a spectacle, I think, in large part because of her.
Yes, I mean, this is a very salacious case. People love to figure out what she's thinking, what she's doing on the stand. When she smirks, when she cries, every little thing she does is being analyzed. She's fascinating to watch.
She is. She's, I mentioned to our listeners last week, I've never seen anyone put so much effort into trying to come across visually and auditorily as like being a person who would never hurt a flea. To come across as a person that's the opposite of what she's accused of.
But that's Kirk Nurmi's plan. That was the whole script that she stuck to on those 3 weeks of direct testimony. Oh, I'm this meek, quiet little wiltering flower who, participated in these sexually deviant acts but never really wanted to. And now Juan Martinez on cross is poking holes in that. And that's why I just wrote a piece on the fact that it's simple to break this portrayal that she, claimed for the last 3 weeks with her own words of the past, her diary, her interviews, her text message conversations. All of those portray a very different Jodi Arias than the one that we have seen on stand.
Right. I recall from your article, the one that's already been published on HuffPo, your thoughts on before Martinez got a hold of her this week for cross-examination, your thoughts when she was on the stand being examined, interviewed, questioned by her own attorney in the defense. That what was she on the stand? 3 weeks?
She was on the stand for 3 very long weeks.
And you have some thoughts about why her attorney did that.
Her attorney, the key to that direct testimony is going to come down to the defense experts that will get on the stand and will say that she suffered from battered woman syndrome, she suffered from PTSD, she blacked out the events, which are a normal thing to do in the face of such tragedy, and he basically had to tell her entire life story, from the abusive parents to the abusive ex-boyfriend to the very long, drawn-out details of the relationship with Travis Alexander to set the stage for the experts to come in and testify about her behavior.
And it also gave the jury, as I recall from your article, it also gave the jury quite a sustained chance to see her as not a monster, but as a young woman, a person, that they may be less likely to vote for the death penalty.
I think putting her on the stand spared her life, no doubt about that. I knew that they were going to put her on the stand, and this is not the same type of case like Casey Anthony and Jerry Sandusky and all the ones we see where it's never a good move to put the defendant on the stand, but in a case like this where we have the death penalty, we have the death penalty, we have 3 women in death row already in Arizona. This saved her life. There's 7 women on the jurors. Putting her on the stand day in and day out and getting to know her, I think spared her life. I'm not saying, now the question comes down to what her sentence will be. I do not think self-defense will work, but I also don't think that she is going to get capital punishment.
Does the jury have options? I know in some states the jury has options, and in some states they don't. Once the defendant is charged, for example, with first-degree murder, I know juries have been polled after acquitting them and saying, we believe they're guilty, but that it wasn't first degree, but we had no other choice. And so we said they were not guilty. What's the story with Arizona?
In Arizona, there are options, and so it doesn't just because it is a first-degree murder conviction wouldn't necessarily mean that she would be automatically sentenced to death. And so this move is sparing her life. The question also now comes down to, is it going to be first-degree murder or is it going to be second-degree? And that all comes down to premeditation.
What do you think of the case that the prosecution did or did not make regarding premeditation?
They made their best effort, and let me tell you, they were very convenient excuses to point the direction away from premeditation, and that's what I wrote my piece about. The fact that she was storing these gas cans was not so she could hide her trip to Arizona that she had planned to kill Travis. She claims it was to save money on gas. All right, I'm not buying it, but that is an excuse. Her claims that she did not steal her grandparents' gun, which is the very same type of gun that was used to shoot and kill Travis Alexander, the same gun that went missing from her grandparents' home a week before the killing. She's claiming she didn't even know about the gun, she had nothing to do with that alleged robbery and break-in, and that instead she took the gun from Travis Alexander's closet and shot him in self-defense. Yet another very convenient excuse that points the direction away from premeditation. But I don't think the jury is going to buy that. And on cross, we're seeing all of these stories and excuses fall to pieces.
I also noticed this week on the stand with the prosecutor, he's just hammering, and he's certainly bringing out the inconsistencies. But Jodi is saying things like she's being belligerent with him, and some of the things he may say, "You're confused," and she goes, "Well, you're confused." It's almost like she's acting like a malcontent adolescent.
Well, at first I was a little concerned with how strong Juan Martinez is coming off. It's a very bulldog approach, and at first I was concerned that doing that day in and day out without changing his pace and without changing his tone and always saying, "Right, ma'am, right," would annoy jurors or would make jurors feel sympathy for her, which is exactly what you don't want to do. But I don't think jurors are going to feel sympathy because, like you said, she also has a bad behavior on the stand. She's smirking. She's outsmarting him. She's answering his questions with questions. She's being very evasive, and jurors aren't going to like that. So
right.
I don't think the fact that he's coming off so strong is that much of a concern at this point because she's also coming off very strong.
I agree. Not so smart. And coming up, we'll be discussing the recent conviction in the Drew Peterson murder trial in Illinois. This is Candice DeLong, and you're listening to Crime Time on KGO.
And listen, get the Bay Area's news on ABC 7 and KGO 810.
Join Michelin-starred Luce Restaurant at the Intercontinental San Francisco for the second annual Culinary Clash.
March 3rd through the 24th, enjoy a 3-course dinner for only $40 prepared by finalists from the California Culinary Academy and the Art Institute of California, who have been selected to cook and showcase their menu to celebrity judges and vie for top honors. $5 of proceeds will benefit each school's scholarship fund.
Visit LuceWineRestaurant.com for more information.
Win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour at the Uptown Theater Napa on May 18th.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
Why is that funny?
Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew co-hosted Loveline from 1995 to 2005, providing a decade of hilarious love advice to listeners across the country. Enjoy a night of great stories and antics.
Don't call this show and throw your attitude around, idiot.
To win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour, listen for the Know Your News quiz weeknights at 7:10 on KGO 810.
It was a dark and stormy night. I mean, really it was. Just as my kids and I started a movie, we heard the loudest thump you could ever imagine. Yep, our backyard tree had fallen over and made its home onto part of our roof. All I could think about was how much the damage would amount to. So I called my banker at First Republic first thing the next morning. He didn't want to dip into my savings, so he suggested an Eagle Gold loan, the perfect loan for emergencies, he'd said, then faxed me the 2-page application, and I was approved by noon. When the insurance guy showed up later and calculated their share, I didn't have to worry about my share. I had total peace of mind, knowing the funds were already in my account at First Republic. Hopefully, we won't have too many emergencies, but it sure is comforting to know First Republic has us covered when we do.
Personal banking, business banking, private wealth management. At First Republic, it's a privilege to serve you. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
What if I told you you could lose your home if you don't plan properly? Your daughter could lose half of the assets she inherits from you if she ever gets a divorce. Hi, my name is Michael Gilfix, and KGO listeners might remember me as the estate planning attorney on the Len Tillum Show. I'm offering 2 vitally important seminars that will explain how to protect your assets that you've built up over a lifetime from the ravages of taxes and from the enormous cost of nursing home care. I'll explain how to protect your home and qualify for Medi-Cal if there is a need for nursing home care. I'll explain dynasty trusts that protect assets your kids and grandkids inherit from you from divorce, from litigation, and from estate tax for generations. Failing to plan properly can jeopardize your entire estate. Join me for a free Gilfix Asset Protection Seminar and learn how this can be achieved on March 6th in San Jose or March 7th in Palo Alto. For more information and to register, call 650-493-8070 or go to gilfix.com. That's 650-493-8070 or gilfix.com.
10 minutes of nonstop news at the beginning of every hour on the Bay Area's news station, KGO 810. Crime Time on KGO 810.
This is Candice DeLong. You're listening to Crime Time, and we are talking with legal analyst Mari Fagel. You may have seen her on CNN or Fox News, and we were talking about the Jodi Arias case. And now I'd like to ask you your thoughts on the Drew Peterson conviction. Drew Peterson was convicted a couple weeks ago in Illinois for the murder of his second wife or third wife, who was found drowned in a bathtub. Originally, that was determined to be an accident. This was during the time they were divorcing, and about 2 years ago, I would say, her body was exhumed, and Dr. Michael Baden was in charge of the re-autopsy and ruled it not an accident but a homicide. And a lot of this had to do with the fact that his fourth wife is missing and has never been found. So there was a lot of attention on him. Once again, like Jodi, attention he brought on himself through his, some would say, ridiculous behavior. Interesting thing about the Peterson conviction, the dead wife's attorney, divorce attorney, when she was alive, was allowed to testify. And he testified essentially to hearsay. Do you remember what it was that he testified about?
He testified about his conversations with Stacey Peterson, the fourth wife, and she basically called him and said, if I tell police that he is the one who killed Kathleen Savio, will it benefit me in my divorce proceedings? And for some reason, his defense thought that was a good idea to put him on the stand and say that, because they thought that putting that saying that would point to the fact that Stacy was a liar, that she was just saying, oh, I'm going to say that he killed the wife to, get an upper hand in divorce proceedings, but it pointed to the exact opposite direction, that she knew that he killed Kathleen Savio and then told her divorce attorney. And that is a very, very unique case with the amount of hearsay evidence that was allowed in. It wasn't only the divorce attorney, Harry Smith. It was the pastor that she had conversations with, Neil Shorey. It was an insane amount of hearsay evidence, and the hearsay evidence was what convicted him ultimately, which is why I am concerned that on appeal, his appeal might just work.
Well, yeah, that was one of my questions, was precedent. In the case of the missing fourth wife telling her divorce attorney, if I told you that he had killed his previous wife, would that help me? It's almost double hearsay. So we have someone on the witness stand, the divorce attorney for a missing woman, testifying to what she said, and he does get convicted. As a precedent, this is pretty unusual, and you're thinking it won't stand up, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there was an entire legal battle regarding the hearsay evidence before the trial even started, because after his arrest, there was a law that was passed that's kind of been coined Drew's Law in Illinois that would allow hearsay evidence in if it's substantially relevant to the case at hand. And you cannot take a law that's been passed after the fact and apply it retroactively. So then it went all the way up to the Illinois Supreme Court, and the Illinois Supreme Court instead found past law that had already existed to allow this hearsay evidence in. So that nixed that battle, because that for sure would not have stand on appeal. But the Illinois Supreme Court claimed there was already existing law to support the evidence, the hearsay evidence being admitted at trial, and that's why Drew Peterson's trial took so long to even get there in the first place, because he was arrested in 2008, and then it took a very, very long time to get to trial. And that was right. There was all these legal issues regarding hearsay. But then as the case was proceeding, as the trial was proceeding, the judge was making these calls as to what evidence to allow in. And that is his best chance at appeal. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but he definitely has a better chance than other criminal defendants. And
just so to make sure that the listeners understand, if he does win on appeal, he's not walking out of prison. He'll get another trial.
Yep, another trial where the amount of hearsay evidence would be vastly restricted, and the hearsay evidence was what ultimately got him. Because when I was writing about this trial, I felt it was very hard to find a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt with the circumstantial evidence, the very little amount of physical evidence that we actually had. It came down to that hearsay evidence, and if that hearsay evidence were not to be admitted in a new trial, I don't know if you could find a guilty verdict.
Well, I hope they're still looking for Stacy's body if that's the case.
Yeah, because then he can get charged with that. But I do think that if the appeal doesn't work, then there you go. He got a 38-year sentence, which was not the maximum 60 years, but it doesn't matter because he's going to die in prison if he gets that 38-year sentence with his age. Oh,
absolutely, absolutely. And he's a cop. He's a cop in prison. So if he's smart, and I'm guessing the prison officials, they've got him in solitary to protect him. They're responsible for him now. And if he walks around general population, he won't make it to dinner time.
Definitely. It's the same thing with Jerry Sandusky. A cop and a pedophile are probably the two biggest targets in a prison, and they have to be separated.
I know. We talked about that on Crime Time, that Jerry Sandusky wants to be out in the general population, and all I could think of was, what is his attorney thinking, fighting for him on his this is... I trust the prison officials that they know what they're doing.
What was that attorney thinking all along? I mean, that was the case, and I don't want to go off, but the number of media interviews that he gave before that trial just really was baffling what his attorney allowed him to sit there and say.
And now he's saying that he didn't have enough time to prepare. However, we were talking last week that the Speedy Trial Act basically says that from the 180 days from the time of a person is arrested or charged with a crime, the government has to be ready to go to trial, not the defense. And now it's defense attorneys going, hey, he got convicted because I didn't have enough time to prepare. Well, the defense attorney, they're the ones that are to go before a judge and request a continuance. And they're the ones that usually get the continuance.
Yeah, that appeal is never going to stand. And that's why I'm saying Drew Peterson's appeal on the hearsay evidence has more merit than the appeals that we keep seeing on, I didn't have enough time to prepare. We're seeing the same thing with George Zimmerman. He wanted, Mark O'Mara wanted to push the trial back because he hasn't had enough time to prepare. Mm-hmm. And the judge nixed that.
He nixed it. Now let's talk about my friend George. He's coming up for his trial. I believe starts in May or June of this spring, summer. Correct?
Yep. The stand your ground hearing is in April, and the trial is in June.
The stand your ground hearing is in April. I thought they already had that. So the stand your ground hearing is where it will be determined only by a judge, not by a jury, as to whether or not he was standing his ground. And what happens if the judge says, I find that you were standing your ground?
Well, then I believe it wouldn't proceed on to trial, and that's the big issue going on in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And the hearing in the past was to determine the dates of it. And so now the stand your ground hearing is in April, the trial is in June. I'm definitely going to be watching that very closely because I know that case has a lot of media attention around it, but George Zimmerman does, I believe, have a strong case for self-defense. And the thing with stand your ground is if he does claim that, then he has to get on the stand, just like we're seeing with Jodi Arias now. Because she's claiming self-defense, she has to get on the stand to say why she felt that her life was being threatened.
Mm-hmm. Well, I disagree with you that about Zimmerman having the legs to stand on, I guess, for a self-defense claim. I think, actually, he was undercharged. I think he left his house that night with a gun with the intention to kill that young man. Now, that could never be proved, and I know that would be to be charged with that, a first-degree murder, would be ridiculous. He would definitely walk out of court, but I believe he had malice in his heart. He provoked a fight that resulted in him killing Trayvon Martin, my opinion.
Well, with that, they can always decide to bring a lesser charge at trial. They can just never bring a higher charge. I think first degree would have never flown, but they went with
Correct.
Second degree because if they can't get second degree, they can at least get manslaughter.
They can get down to manslaughter, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think first degree would have ever stood, and I actually thought that second degree was also too difficult of a charge to prove in this case, but I felt like the prosecutor there, they were covering their bases basically by, okay, well, we're going to charge him with second degree, but, if that becomes too difficult to prove, then we'll bring it down to manslaughter.
I don't know if you caught the interview he did several months ago with Sean Hannity, where Sean asked him, he said, looking back, now that you've been, through hell, looking back, are you sorry you left your house that night with a gun? And he said, it was God's plan. I almost fell off my chair when I saw that.
I saw that same interview, and I just think to myself, why do these attorneys let their criminal defendants do these media interviews?
I love it.
Always comes back to haunt them, though. We're seeing it right now with Jodi Arias. The number of times Martinez has played that 48 Hours interview and the Inside Edition interview. Mm-hmm. We saw it with Sandusky. We saw it with Conrad Murray. I mean, every time they do these interviews, their words are going to be used against them.
Oh, Mari, and it's wonderful for talk show hosts, so I can talk to people like you about it. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking with Mari about the Oscar Pistorious case in South Africa. This is Candice DeLong, and you're listening to Crime Time.
All right, Candice, KGO Radio News Time is 1:30. Good morning. I'm George Acevedo. Here's what's happening. Authorities say an elderly woman being cared for at a California retirement facility died after a nurse there refused to perform CPR after she'd collapsed. A Bakersfield TV station reports she's heard telling the 911 dispatcher it was against Glenwood Gardens' policy to perform CPR. The facility says protocol was followed, but adds that a thorough internal review of the matter would be conducted. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is wrapping up a visit to deeply divided Egypt with an appeal for unity and reform to the country's president and military chief. Kerry meets today with President Mohamed Morsi and his defense minister. The U.S. is deeply concerned that continued instability in Egypt will have broader consequences. The French aren't confirming it, but the head of Chad's military says his troops in northern Mali have killed Mokhtar Belmokhtar, the international terrorist responsible for the attack on a natural gas plant in Algeria that resulted in the deaths of dozens of foreigners. The French military is leading the offensive against al-Qaeda-linked rebels in northern Mali. A playful 3-month-old polar bear cub has made its public debut at the Buffalo Zoo in western New York. The fluffy white cub was introduced Friday as the zoo announced the next phase of fundraising for a new polar bear exhibit. The zoo says it's one of only 2 in North America to have polar bear births in 2012. The cub is still too small to exhibit, but she's visible via closed-circuit television at the zoo on weekday afternoons. In sports, the Warriors fell to the 76ers 104-97. College hoops, Cal defeated Colorado 62-46, and St. Mary's beat Santa Clara 80-67. In hockey, the Sharks beat the Predators 2-1 at HB Pavilion. We'll check KGO traffic and weather coming up next.
This is KGO 810.
Win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour at the Uptown Theater Napa on May 18th.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
So, why is that funny?
Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew co-hosted Loveline from 1995 to 2005, providing a decade of hilarious love advice to listeners across the country. Enjoy a night of great stories and antics.
Don't call this show and throw your attitude around, idiot.
To win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour, listen for the Know Your News quiz weeknights at 7:10 on KGO 810.
Join Michelin-starred Luce Restaurant at the Intercontinental San Francisco for the 2nd annual Culinary Clash.
March 3rd to the 24th, enjoy a 3-course dinner for only $40 prepared by finalists from the California Culinary Academy and the Art Institute of California, who have been selected to cook and showcase their menu to celebrity judges and vie for top honors. $5 of proceeds will benefit each school's scholarship fund.
Visit LuceWineRestaurant.com for more information.
Hey, it's Jenna Lane here, still loving life free of my contact lenses and glasses, all thanks to Harvard MD and 49ers eye doctor, Dr. Scott Hiver. You want a great way to start the new year and save yourself a bunch of money? Then go ahead and use those tax-free dollars currently in your company's Flex Medical Spending account on all laser LASIK with Dr. Scott Hiver. And if those tax-free dollars don't quite cover the cost, you can still pay the balance with Dr. Hiver's special 24-month interest-free plan on your approved credit. But this special all-laser LASIK offer expires February 28th, so call now to schedule your free evaluation with Dr. Hiver. He can see you in Daly City, Santa Clara, or San Ramon. Just call 800-454-2747. That's 800-454-2747. Or go to scotthiver.com. That's SCOTTHYV as in vision, ER.com.
The proceeding was a paid endorsement. Scott Hiver Vision Care Inc., Professional Medical Corporation.
I'm estate planning attorney Michael Gilfix. You may remember me from the Lynn Tillum Show. I'm offering 2 extraordinary estate planning seminars addressing the role of dynasty trusts, special needs trusts, and tax planning. I'll explain how to protect assets and qualify for Medi-Cal if there's a need for nursing home care, how to protect assets your daughter inherits from you from divorce. Join me for a free asset protection seminar on March 6th in San Jose or March 7th in Palo Alto. Call us at 650-493-8070 or go to Gilfix.com. That's Gilfix.com.
Sports with attitude. Every half hour at 20 and 50 on KGO 810.
KGO radio news time is 1:35. Checking KGO traffic on the 5s. It looks like an accident in Oakland. They're on 880 northbound at Davis Street. CHP is on the way. There's also some road work in Oakland on 880 northbound between 23rd and Broadway. Southbound 880 between Jackson Street and 23rd. There's an accident reported in Antioch. Highway 4 westbound at Loveridge. CHP's on the way there. And another wreck reported getting onto the upper deck of the Bay Bridge heading into the city. 80 westbound at the Toll Plaza. It looks like a couple of the middle lanes may be blocked. There's some road work in Richmond. 580 westbound on the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. They've got a couple of the right lanes coned off there. KGO weather, chance of rain overnight and through the morning with lows in the 40s. Then we'll have a partly cloudy afternoon. It's going to be breezy with highs in the mid-50s to mid-60s. Partly cloudy Monday and then a chance of rain Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, 52 degrees in Novato, and on your radio, it's 8:10. I'm George Acevedo, KGO Radio News.
Get your news as it happens. Twitter, Facebook, ABC7, and instantly on the all-new KGO 810. Crime Time on KGO 810.
This is Candice DeLong. You're listening to Crime Time, and our guest tonight is legal analyst Mari Fagel. You may have seen her on cable news, Fox News, CNN, and the like, and she's a regular contributor to the Huffington Post. And let's talk about, it seems like there's a lot of bathroom murders in the news lately. Arias, the victim, Travis was killed in the bathroom. Peterson's wife, that he was just convicted, she was killed in the bathroom. And now we've got Oscar Pistorius, a famous, unique, world-known athlete, is accused of killing his girlfriend in the bathroom. He says it was self-defense. He apparently shot through the bathroom door in the middle of the night. What are your thoughts on this?
This one, it comes down to whether they can prove premeditation or not, and he has been charged with a premeditated crime and released on bail, and right now they're gathering evidence to try to see if they can prove that, and it's his story against the prosecutor's story. And his story is that, there's a lot of crime in South Africa. He had been a victim of violence and burglary in the past. He realized that contractors who were doing workers on his home had left their ladders outside. In the middle of the night, he heard something, so he walked on the stumps of his legs, grabbed his gun from the bed, and heard something in the bathroom. He fired shots in the bathroom door, and he yelled at Reeva Steenkamp, "Call the police," because he thought she was still by his bedside sleeping. And then when she did not respond, he realized that something had gone horribly wrong. He apparently took the bat, tried to break the door down, and then grabbed Reeva Steenkamp, brought her downstairs, and tried to resuscitate her with no luck. The state is claiming that they're claiming BS on that. They're saying that there had been a heated argument, that neighbors had heard things, and there had been, domestic violence-like incidents in the past, and that he planned to kill her, and he did.
In South Africa, do you know, regarding premeditation, I know in some states in America, premeditation is not something that had to have been going on for weeks or months before a murder. It can be something that happened minutes before a murder took place. Do you know what the story is in South Africa?
I have to find out what it is in South Africa, but there are the jurisdictions are split as to what constitutes premeditation, and whether that plan, to kill is either you can form it in seconds, you have an intent to kill by just picking up a gun and mortally wounding someone, or there actually has to be evidence of a planned, like we're seeing with Jodi Arias, a week before deciding to take this gun and then take this trip and do it.
Well, Oscar's got some problems. Of course, there's so much information coming out of South Africa on this case, and almost none of it from the police. This stick, I guess they're calling it a cricket, which is something like a hockey stick.
Or the cricket bat. That's what I referred to as a bat, yes.
The bat, right. That he uses it to beat the door down. But it had blood on it, is one report. And she had a skull fracture, and a skull fracture is not the same as a bullet hole in the skull.
Yeah, and that's why that blood-stained cricket bat is going to be the key in whether it was premeditated or not, because detectives are investigating it now, trying to determine whether it was used to attack her, if she used the bat in self-defense, or if he used it to try to break down the bathroom door, as he's claiming.
Well, if it has her blood on it and it matches up with a skull fracture, one would think it's adios Oscar. Except Oscar's got some interesting things going for him. As you know, Mari, celebrities, especially sports celebrities, especially good-looking sports celebrities and popular ones, and he was born with a tremendous disability and overcame it to a point of becoming an Olympian. His bilateral lower amputations when he was just a baby, because he didn't have bones in his lower extremities, and then becomes an Olympian runner. Juries don't want to send people with those kinds of accomplishments and popularity to prison.
Well, his popularity took a nosedive on Valentine's Day, and now we're seeing a huge PR effort on his team. Did you see he held his own private memorial service for her?
Yes, I did.
And I think that this whole PR move isn't going to work. If you see the cover of Time magazine right now, is a picture of him with the title Man, Superman, Gunman. And so his PR team can try to do whatever they can to evoke sympathy on his end, but when you put him up next to this beautiful girl who tweeted out the day that she died or the day before she died in support of victims of domestic violence, I mean, I don't think he's that sympathetic of a person.
Well,
or the jury's going to view him that way.
Well, I certainly don't think so. The diagram that you mentioned, the Time magazine article, the diagram of his story, if it were diagrammed on a map schematic of the inside of the bedroom bathroom, the image that this young, beautiful woman cowering, lying behind a toilet, dying. I mean, you go in the bathroom through one door and there's your sinks, and then there's another door, and that's the toilet room. And he shoots through that door, that locked door, without first asking who's in there. He's the one outside the door with the gun. He had nothing to lose by asking that question and waiting to hear the answer. And the number one rule of firearms is never pull that trigger unless you know exactly what you're shooting at, because the potential for the bullet from your gun to kill them or injure someone is very, very high. And he shot 3 times, 4 times in total. 3 shots went through the door. The image of this young woman lying on a cold bathroom floor, bleeding to death, after they probably had a fight and she ran in there to hide, is shocking and frightening to me.
And remember, this was a bathroom measuring less than 20 square feet. So she had nowhere to hide. And those bullets through those doors were going to hit her because there was nothing else for them to hit. That's how small that bathroom was. And like you said, he didn't check first. He didn't check first that she was laying in bed next to him. And then why would an intruder run into a bathroom, an enclosed bathroom? And so a lot of his story doesn't add up or make sense. And I don't want to make rash judgments now because we need to let them do the investigation. We're going to see what's going to happen with the cricket bat, what's going to come down with the stories. But right now, it just isn't lining up, and it's not making sense.
I think the autopsy, of course, is going to tell a lot. Hopefully they have forensic pathologists in South Africa as good as some of the ones that we have here in America, because if he hit her, if they got in a fight, which is what it looks like to me, they got in a fight, he picks up the stick, he loses control of his temper and anger, he beats her about the head and face, and then she runs in the bathroom, and now he's saying to himself, oh my gosh, what have I done? This is going to destroy me when this gets out. And so he sets up this whole, I better kill her and make it look like a home invasion. And now he's trying to get away with it. And I don't know who he's going to fool. Doesn't sound like he's fooled you, and he certainly hasn't fooled me. More when we come back. We're talking to Mari Fagel, legal analyst, and we're going to be talking about flaws in the criminal justice system. This is Candice DeLong, and you're listening to Crime Time.
This is KGO 810.
Win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour at the Uptown Theater Napa on May 18th.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
Why is that funny?
Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew co-hosted Loveline from 1995 to 2005, providing a decade of hilarious love advice to listeners across the country. Enjoy a night of great stories and antics.
Don't call this show and throw your attitude around, idiot.
To win tickets to the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew reunion tour, listen for the Know Your News quiz weeknights at 7:10 on KGO 810.
Join Michelin-starred Luce Restaurant at the Intercontinental San Francisco for the second annual Culinary Clash.
March 3rd to the 24th, enjoy a 3-course dinner for only $40 prepared by finalists from the California Culinary Academy and the Art Institute of California, who have been selected to cook and showcase their menu to celebrity judges and vie for top honors. $5 of proceeds will benefit each school's scholarship fund.
Visit LuceWineRestaurant.com for more information.
Bill Wattenberg here. For the past 11 years, I've been telling you about NewPain.com. Some things don't change. NewPain's commitment to offering quality Milgard products at reasonable prices put them in a class above their competitors. NewPain's proud to sell Milgard windows. Go to NewPain.com. That's NEWPANE, like windowpane.com. And get prices on the complete line of Milgard windows in wood, fiberglass, vinyl, and aluminum. All offer high-performance, energy-efficient glazing. NewPain will sell you the windows directly if you or your contractor want to install them. And when you buy from NewPain, you'll never have to deal with the salesman in your home. NewPain will cut through all the nonsense and give you prices without the fairy tales. NewPain is one of Milgard's premier dealers. Go to NewPain.com or call them at 800-614-7263. That's 800-614-7263. And tell them Bill sent you.
Breaking news and the big stories that matter in your life.
An Oakland rapper was in the center of a spectacular fiery crash on the Vegas Strip.
San Francisco wants to add a little more green to the city, so it's putting out the call for even more parklets.
We've got the Bay Area covered.
Police at UC Santa Cruz are making immediate changes after several students were attacked.
A Vallejo football coach is suing St. Patrick's St. Vincent High School, saying he shouldn't have been fired for reporting allegations of sexual harassment.
Your local news station, KGO 810. Scores, highlights, and opinions. Sports every half hour at 20 and 50 on KGO 810.
One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. One way or another, I'm gonna win you. I'll get you.
Crime Time on KGO 810.
This is Candice DeLong, and you're listening to Crime Time. We're talking with Mari Fagel. She is a legal analyst, and we've been talking about a variety of murders in the news, the Oscar Pistorious murder in South Africa, the Jodi Arias murder trial going on here in Arizona. And Mari, I have a Facebook comment or question. Dear Candice and Mari, I just came across this and wondered if the jurors have the same take on the Jodi Arias as you have, or if either of you could weigh in on her conviction. Does her personality have any bearing on the crime, which obviously the crime is murder? Any consideration when incarcerated in any way? Would she qualify for counseling if she beats the death penalty? Emailer doesn't see her as insane. Cold and calculating, looks like to me, and her unemotional reactions make her that's what leads her to think that, and she needs treatment. Mari, what are your thoughts on your knowledge, actually, or thoughts on people getting treatment in prison?
Well, I first want to address one part of her question when she says, does her behavior have any bearing on it? And I think it's huge because I actually think that the defense, I don't think it's going to work, but I think they're going to ask for a jury instruction. They're going to try to have these experts prove and say that she's a domestic violence victim, that she suffers from battered woman syndrome, and that's the type of person who tries to protect their attacker. So that's why in those initial police interviews, she always praised Travis. And in all these interviews and things Martinez is bringing up, she, says nothing but great things about Travis. She wrote it in his memorial book.
Mm-hmm.
She always says, baby, you're the best. And the experts are going to try to explain that someone who suffers from battered woman syndrome, their initial instinct is to try to protect their attacker. And so her behavior plays a key role. And I also think that the defense is going to try to ask for a jury instruction of what would a reasonable domestic violence victim do? Not a reasonable person, a reasonable domestic violence victim. I don't think that's going to work, but I think they're going to try it. In terms of getting treatment in prison, Candice, I'll let you take that one.
Well, some prisons do provide treatment for certain people, for certain convicts. They're generally people that are obviously mentally ill and need medication and other therapies. Jodi does not fall into that category of being, I don't see any signs of mental illness at all. I see a personality disorder, which is a clinical term for butthead. But one of the things that taught me all I need to know about Jodi, and you did mention this in one of your columns, Mari, she actually said that she walked into the bedroom one day and he was masturbating to a photograph of a little boy. But she didn't note it in her diary, and she didn't do anything about it. She didn't call the police. The police found no evidence of that picture or any child pornography on any of Travis's computers. But one of the things that struck me as a woman, why would you stay with that person? And why would you, as you mentioned, she writes in her diary, and she wrote it on his memorial, in his memorial book, Travis, you're the best. Really, Jodi? That's what you think about somebody masturbating to a picture of a little boy? That they're the best?
Yeah, and that's why all her previous words and lack of them are going to dismantle all her claims that he was this abusive pedophile. Because, so she gets on Stand and Direct and says he masturbated to photos of little boys, and then in the memorial service book writes, Travis, you're beautiful on the inside and out. This world has been blessed because you have been here. And then she claims that he one time choked her, that she blacked out, and then another time bent her finger and broke her finger, yet 2 days after he allegedly bent her finger, her very first diary entry, she writes, quote, nothing noteworthy to report. So you're telling me your boyfriend just abused you, attacked you, and broke your finger, yet there's nothing noteworthy to report in your diary? And so it's not lining up. The story that she presented on direct, the scripted story that her and Kirknerme worked out, is not lining up with all of her past behavior and words.
Mari, I haven't been able to follow the trial on a daily basis. Did Prosecutor Martinez ask her why she continued to see a man that she claims she found masturbating to pictures of little boy?
He has a more subtle approach in asking her questions. So he'll play a 48 hours clip where she says, oh, Travis is this great person, and then he'll say something. So you're saying the world is a darker place without a man who masturbated to photos of little boys? And then, there was a whole thing of, and she said, I believe that he could change, that I believe that wasn't the best part of himself. So he asked her in more subtle ways, but he does ask her that. And she always kind of claims, well, he had this side to him, but this was this dark side to him. He was trying to change it.
Well, oh yeah, she's got an answer for everything. I wonder if it's ever occurred, which is classic psychopath behavior. They have to chat. They have to talk. Lying is easier for them than telling the truth, and they lie when the truth would be easier. And part of that, it's been my experience, especially in cases of premeditated spousal murder, that the killer is I see a characteristic over and over, and it's arrogance. And they almost get in front of a microphone and say, okay, look me in the eye. Now I'm going to lie to you. And because I'm so much smarter than you, you're going to believe me.
But he's calling her on it. Martinez is calling her on it. He said he calls it her litany of lies. So he says, so you lied to everyone. You lied to people in Arizona, in Utah, you lied to Detective Flores. And she said, yes, yes, yes. But she claims that she's not lying now. She's not lying now that she's on the stand. And then he plays yet another clip from 48 Hours or yet another text message conversation, and he catches her in every single one of her lies.
I know. There's certain things my experience has taught me, Mari, that watching juries and studying cases over the years, juries are afraid of certain things and behaviors that when a defendant exhibited a particular behavior, even though they may have empathy for them and not want to send them to prison, there's something that they did in the crime that tells the juror in their heart, I don't want this person walking around. And one of those things is excessive stab wounds, which and the ear-to-ear slicing. For me as a profiler, looks like an attempt at decapitation. That's pretty scary. And moreover, she left him there and did not report anything. She just drives off into the desert, and his body was found by friends 5 days later. That shows to me, and I think to some to juries, utter contempt for that person, not only their life, but their body in death. She could have stopped at a payphone in the desert and made an anonymous call. She didn't do it. 5 days later, his friends find him. And I think that's not going to help her in the jury deliberation room. Your thoughts?
Not only that, but she sends his family an 18-page letter claiming that intruders killed him. She sends his grandmother flowers. She has the nerve to show up to his memorial and well aware that she is the one who killed him all along. That is complete evil, despicable behavior right there.
It's cold-blooded psychopathy. You're right. It's cold-blooded.
And I know that she is claiming that he was shot first and then she blacked out and stabbed him and doesn't remember it. But the medical examiner said he was not shot first. He was stabbed first, which is much worse because that is a slow, long death. It's not a quick gunshot and then it's a long, slow death, which is not going to be looked upon favorably by jurors.
And then factor in that she made love to him just before she killed him, kind of paints a picture of, what's that word I'm looking for? Black Widow. I wouldn't want to be her next boyfriend if she is acquitted.
I don't think any man would. I mean, a lot of people are writing weird things because they've seen so many graphic photos of her and all the things that she's been willing to do. But I just think the things that she has done and the things that she's saying now are not lining up. And we have a motive, a very clear motive that Juan Martinez has been slowly seeping into the jurors' minds, that she was jealous. In his first day of cross-examination, he brings up the fact that she was snooping in his window, looking at him with a new girlfriend. And he was saying, what gives you the right to do that as an ex-girlfriend? And then later on in his cross-examination, he brings up the fact that she one time hacked into the email of one of her ex-boyfriends one of her boyfriends and realized that he was cheating on her. He's planting the seeds of jealousy. And today we got at the important part, and yesterday too, where Jodi realizes a week before she kills him that he is going to Cancun with another woman. That is the motive we need right there.
Whoa,
and we
I didn't
find
know
out
that.
today that she said, or that Travis said, right before he was killed, or hours before he was killed, that he wanted photos to be taken of him because he had a quote-unquote cut body, that his body was in peak shape because he was about to go to Cancun with another woman. So she hears right before she kills him, oh, take pictures of my body. I look great because I'm going to Cancun with another woman. There's the motive right there.
There you go. Hey, I'm with you, Mari. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The jury's got 3 days to mull over what they've heard this week. I can't thank you enough for joining us on Crime Time.
Thank you so much.
This is Candice DeLong. You're listening to Crime Time, and we've been talking with Mari Fagel. She is a legal analyst. You've probably seen her on Fox News and CNN, and look her up and read her blogs. They're fascinating. And now, let's go to the newsroom. KGO, San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose.